Awesome. We just started recording. I want to welcome you all once again officially to the webinar today. My name is Jake Ellis with Outreach. This is a webinar called 5 Ways to Get More Christmas Visitors. It is our heart at Outreach that we would help equip and empower you as local church leaders in whatever ways we can to reach out to your communities most effectively so that the most people possible can hear the gospel of Jesus Christ and can celebrate Christmas for all that it's worth this season. So that's our heart in all of this. I just want to do a couple things, introduce myself briefly, and then get to these 5 ideas. And these are not all comprehensive. This is not us pretending to know all the answers to get more visitors, but this is just a few ideas, maybe some things you have or have not thought about already. So we'll throw all that out at you. We'll talk through that for a few minutes, and then I'll leave some time open at the end of the call today just for questions and response and answers and conversation mutually. So with that being said, just to introduce myself, my name is Jake. My role at Outreach is in business development. And so that just means trying to connect with as many church leaders as possible and trying to see how our team and whatever resources and tools we have can partner with you and your church to reach your communities. I come from a background of over 10 years in full-time ministry, a lot of that in both the teaching and preaching roles, and then in worship leading and creative roles. Bottom line for me is that I genuinely love the church and I love serving ministry leaders. So if you hear nothing else from me, and if you know nothing else about me today, just know that I really love the church. And without knowing you personally maybe, and without knowing your church, I know the struggle of full-time in the trenches, doing the work week in and week out so that people might come to know Jesus. And we are here for you in that. One other thing is that I love Christmas. That's a video of me being excited for Christmas. Just kidding. Of course, that's Buddy the Elf. But we're going to go right into it. Number 1 here. Idea number 1 for how to get more Christmas visitors is to plan a special series or a special screening event. When I say special series, we have plenty of resources available that are Christmas specific themed, kind of comprehensive packages that are really just a plug and play thing for you to grab, and it comes with all the digital graphics you'd need, files to print things that you need to go along with whatever theme or motif you're working with. It comes with sermons that have kind of been carefully thought through and written out and prepped for you to either reference or to use more thoroughly. And then when I say a screening event, you can go to Outreach Films, and The Chosen is obviously kind of the biggest, most popular thing happening in that space right now. They have a Christmas special that we're, honored and privileged to partner with The Chosen on connecting that to churches. So we provide licensing where churches can screen that for free at their church. So that's The Chosen Christmas special. But even beyond The Chosen too, I just encourage you to think through any other of the films that are in our Outreach Films catalog. So often, when people are reticent to come to a church for a Sunday service, or even reticent to come to a Christmas Eve service, there's a high chance that they might want to bring their kids to a movie night that you have, in your whatever kind of space you have it out in the courtyard or in your church building. Think about doing a pajama night with popcorn and everything. Like, just do whatever you can to kind of create this special event with a special movie screening that might attract more visitors. Here's what I want you to hear when we talk about, planning a special series or a special screening event, is that when you plan something intentional, you give your people an opportunity to engage and a reason to invite. When you plan something intentional, you give your people an opportunity to engage and a reason to invite. I think that so often what our people need from us is almost just an excuse to talk to their neighbors, or like an excuse to talk to the other parents on the soccer field. Like they want to. It's not that they don't want to invite people to church. It's just that sometimes starting the conversation feels so awkward, and it feels like, if I don't have a reason to bring it up, then I'm not going to bring it up. So sometimes when you come to a special event season like Christmas or Easter or fall kickoff, honestly, what we're doing there is we're just giving our people an excuse to invite people. We're giving them a reason to bring up the conversation in front of their world. And I want to say this too, that a special series doesn't mean that you change your preaching philosophy. It means that you frame what you already do in a way that stands out. I know it's really important for just the diversity of churches that are represented, even in a call like this. Some of the churches here are firm, expositional, verse by verse preaching kinds of churches, and that's beautiful. And some of the churches here are very topical, more topically oriented, and that's amazing as well. And so this call to do a special series, isn't a call to change anything about what you do in your preaching. It just means to frame what you're already doing in a way that stands out. So what would it look like to do, a verse by verse expositional based series that you can frame in such a way that gives people a reason to invite their world to come and see it? Now, that was number one, is to plan a special series or do a special movie screening. Number two is send postcards. We can't do a webinar without talking about postcards at Outreach, because this is just one of the bread and butter things that we do. And so we want to walk through it with you. I'll do it fairly briefly. The way that we do postcards and direct mail altogether is what we call smart mail. We like to say it's the smartest way to do direct mail, because essentially it takes what used to be one marketing touch point and it turns into 4 marketing touch points. Historically, when you said, let's do a direct mail campaign, that meant that somebody just got a physical piece of mail in their mailbox and they brought it inside, looked at it, and that's awesome. That's a good marketing touch point. But what happened with Smart Mail is we multiplied that so it's at least 4 touch points. That includes that physical piece of direct mail. So this custom postcard is sent to the people's mailbox. But then second, they get an email with USPS informed delivery. So the people who have informed delivery, that's a service from USPS, they get an email from the USPS with a picture and a click-through link of the postcard in their email inbox. The third thing is the ability, this isn't mandatory, but it's the ability to offer a texting QR code onto that physical piece of mail. We do this in a partnership with a company called Glue, and that all happens for free for you. And then the fourth thing, also optional, is to integrate a social media ad campaign that matches the whole thing. So if you can kind of just picture the sequence in the perfect world, what would happen here is somebody gets home and they open up their email and they see in their email a USPS informed delivery, and it says there's this postcard from such and such a church. And then they can click through that link and end up on your church's website. And then they can go out to their mailbox and get a physical piece of mail that matches the email that they just saw. And then on the postcard, they can scan a QR code that drops them into a texting sequence with you. And then they log on to Facebook later that day. And on the side of their screen, they see an ad that matches all that they've seen all day long. So that's kind of the power, the comprehensive effect of the smart mail. And I'll just walk through that briefly, piece by piece. With direct mail, we help with everything from design, targeted mailing lists, printing, postage, post office delivery. We want you to hear that we have a low price guarantee with all of that. So if there's ever a price to beat and you guys are looking at doing a direct mail campaign, we just want you to know that we can beat those prices. Just some benefits here. The idea of physical presence with a piece of marketing is increasingly valuable as our world grows increasingly digital. That's kind of the sentiment we like to say, is that as the digital noise gets louder and louder and louder, there is something increasingly powerful and differentiating about getting a physical piece of paper. I think the stat is something like 90 to 95% of millennials say that they love getting mail, which some people think is funny, but I completely agree. I'm kind of a mid-level millennial myself, and I love getting physical mail. I blame Blue's Clues for that, for mail time. I think that's probably where it started. Part number 2 of the smart mail is that informed delivery piece. So over 62 million users in the country have informed delivery with USPS, which means that for those folks, there's a 13% greater reach, 39% more attention to the postcard, 37% more responses, and ultimately 20% more people converting to visit your website with that USPS informed delivery. Those emails from informed delivery have a 62% average open rate, which is 3 times higher than the national average for just industry standard, email open rates. The standard is around 20% of emails get opened, and these are 60% that get opened. Part 3 is the texting piece. Now, this happens again through partnership with a company called Glue. And we can use your own texting platform too. If you're already hooked up with something, whether it's Text in Church or Clearstream or something like that, that's awesome. So we can take from either Glue or those services and create a QR code, which again, if you can picture this, they get the physical postcard from their mailbox, flip it over on the back, there's a QR code. They pull out their phone immediately and they can, boom, scan that QR code, and that'll immediately drop them into a text messaging sequence with you. You guys will be equipped with your own unique SMS texting number that can then interact. Like when someone scans the QR code, you'll see that and you can begin having a texting conversation with them, which it makes the potential of a visit significantly more likely. If after they get the postcard, then they can text questions, and it's, an admin person at the church or the pastor of the church saying, hey, so glad you got the postcard. Hey, here's how parking works. Here's how to check in your kids. Here's where to find donuts and coffee. Or here's, come say hi to me. I'll be in the lobby after service. So that's the third part. Fourth part of the direct mail, smart mail is social media ads. Our team can create and run matching ads on Facebook and Instagram to target the same homes as your postcard with an invitation to church. Again, with all of this, it's just about multiplying marketing touch points. They say that you need about 8 to 10 touch points for someone to make a conscious decision for what they want to even think or feel about your organization. That doesn't even mean they're going to come or not come. That just means they need to like the existence of your church needs to cross their consciousness like 8 times for them to even really, truly think about the fact that you exist. So you got to start adding those things up and realize, okay, a sign outside of our church, that's one touch point. A Facebook ad, one touch point. An email campaign, one touch point. A direct mail piece, one touch point. And you just want to kind of add those touch points up so that ultimately you can help them decide, okay, that we exist. What are you going to choose to do? Do you want to come or do you not want to come? You want to help them get to that decision sooner than later. So those are number 1 and 2, 5 ways to get more Christmas visitors. Number 3, I'll just say utilize digital and social ads. I'm separating this from the direct mail campaign portion because you don't have to do a direct mail campaign in order to still utilize digital and social ads. Similarly, you don't have to utilize digital and social ads to just utilize direct mail campaign. So you can figure out what might be right for you and your church. When I say utilize social ads, man, I'm so thrilled about the recent developments in our social offerings. It just seems like what our team is able to offer now is just continuing to grow and grow and grow. One of the coolest things recently is what we're doing with AI-powered sermon clips. So this is a tool where you're able to upload your, a YouTube video of your sermon. Say it's a 45-minute sermon. Maybe some of you, it's an hour 20, who knows? No shame, no judgment. You upload that, into this platform, and then it uses an AI function to pull out certain clips from your whole, sermon. And then it adds on the auto-generated captions, and it just spits that back out to you so that you can share that on Instagram and Facebook. And it's just a really shareable, really compelling piece of content. Along with that, graphics library with, over 4,000 quality graphics, really designed to help captivate your audience. Some of the power in our graphics library is just the ability to auto schedule your posts. And this is true, this isn't an exaggeration. You can spend probably 10 minutes in our graphic auto scheduler and probably schedule a calendar of graphics that can cover a whole year. And you can do that in a matter of minutes. So would highly encourage you to go check out just the offerings of Outreach Social. Just some pricing tiers here for your reference. A more basic plan at $19 a month and a more pro plan at $79 a month, with the plus plan kind of sitting right in the middle at $39 a month. Comes with 10 hours of video uploads, unlimited graphic posts and downloads, email support, auto posting, a metrics dashboard to see how things are doing. You can use the same AI tool from your sermon video. That'll help you generate group study guides and discussion questions afterwards. You can convert sermons into 5-day devotionals to, track with the week after the sermon. So I really can't say, and I know I need to keep moving on, but I really can't say enough how excited I am about the recent developments with Outreach Social. I would highly encourage you to look at that. And I would just ask you this question. If digital is the native tongue of our culture, what does it look like for you to be a missionary? And I was thinking through that the other day because I was at a conference and somebody brought up this example. They just said, hey, imagine I'm a church planter and I want to move to China and I want to plant a church in China, but I don't want to learn any Mandarin. I just want it to be English. You'd probably say like, okay, love your ambition, but I hate to break it to you, you're not going to be the most effective church planter if you don't want to learn the native tongue of the culture you want to move to, which just leads to this question, I think, for us as we think about, okay, how are we meeting people in this very natural space of the digital landscape? If digital is the native tongue of our culture, what does it look like for you to be a missionary, to make sure that you're engaging people where they're at as much as you can? So that's number 3. Think through how you're utilizing digital and social ads and engagement. Number 4 is this: encourage personal invitation. Encourage personal invitation. It's our heart at Outreach to equip you, the church. And I know that it's you as church leaders, it's your heart to equip the saints for the work of ministry. We don't want this to be, it's not like you guys are just the professionals, providing the goods and services and people just come show up and, glean from you. Like, you want to empower your people. You want to equip them to go and be the church, not just to come and attend church. We have some really practical tools to help people do this, like the invitation station. This is a simple tool. It's a kind of a 2-foot by 3-foot stock rigid sign that has these 4 acrylic card holders on the front of it that hold about 240 invites, and it's an adjustable height. And so what we love to see is, and all this, just $150, $147. Throw this out in your lobby or right at your exit doors, and at every service, just mention at the end of your service, hey, as you go today, grab an invite card because you are the church. We are not just the church here in this building. Like, you are the church as you go. So grab a card and invite somebody. And what this does, and here's, just some different options here: circle invites, square invites, medium invites, large invites. Personally, I love kind of the smaller, business card size, because I could just keep those in my pocket. And sometimes what you want to do is you just want to like leave that as like a little, thing that'll kind of stick people when they put their hand in their pocket and they remember, oh yeah, I've got some invite cards in there. And so then all of a sudden they're at the soccer field or they're chatting with their neighbor over the fence and they have a card, like they might as well pull it out and start a conversation. You kind of want to put it like I like to think of, I want to put this out in front of people so they trip over it all week long. Like, they trip over the fact that they need to invite people. And ultimately what you're doing here is you're putting the ball on the tee. That's how I like to think about the invite culture. You just want to set the ball on the tee for people because, again, they want to invite their friends. Like, your church people are good people who know the mission of the church and they want to invite people to come and know Jesus. So often, though, it feels like to invite someone, they're like swinging at Tim Wakefield's knuckleball. Like, it seems so hard and so daunting and so like intimidating. What you want to do is just set it on the tee and say, hey, here's a little business card piece of paper. Go take this and just put it in your friend's hand and just say, hey, come to church. Like, it's that easy. It doesn't have to be this big, awkward, intimidating thing. Number 5, last thing for now, and I know I'm kind of throwing a fire hose of info at you fairly quickly, but I want to leave enough time at the end and respect your time. Number 5 is to dial in your signage. When you think about, when people come onto your campus, when people drive by your campus, do they know what it is? Is it clear who you are? Is it clear what the name of your place is? It's like if you're deciding to throw a party, or maybe you've been to a wedding recently or had a wedding recently. One of the most important things is just letting people know, hey, wedding this way, reception this way, ceremony this way. Or, hey, man, we had a party. We're having a Christmas party. It's at my address. What if I didn't have my address clearly marked outside my house and people had a hard time finding my house? So just think about the way that you use signage in order to help people feel comfortable and clear when they're there at your church. We have so many different kind of forms and sizes and shapes of signs and banners. Whether you pick from a templated design that we already have, or you just want to upload your own fully custom design, maybe you're good in Photoshop or Canva or InDesign, that's awesome. You can upload your own thing and we can just simply be your printer. So you can do a large 3x8 outdoor vinyl like those. Some of these flag banners are really popular, the 2 foot by 8.5 foot banner. And there's so many different versatile ways to use these, and they're really inexpensive. And then lastly, I think I threw in a couple 2x6. These could be indoor. You could do an outdoor version of these that just kind of stand as a 6 foot tall, whether to promote a theme or whether as more of a wayfinding tool to help people understand, where to check in kids or where to go to the bathroom or where to find the donuts and the coffee. Now, I just want to make this clear. When we talk about banners, like I've been saying, it is so much more than promo. When you dial in your signage, you give people the gift of clarity and hospitality. See, because we talk to a lot of churches, and there's a lot of churches out there that are very serious about kind of their brand and their, the promotional material, and that's awesome. But then there's also a lot of churches who say like, no, we're just, we're not trying to promote a brand or our name or anything, and that's great too. I'm with you. I feel that. But I just want to say, when you dial in your signage, it's not just about saying, hey, look how cool our church is. Look how slick our branding is. It's about so much more. It's about giving people the gift, again, of clarity and hospitality, so that when they walk up to your building, into your courtyard, into your, middle school cafeteria where you might be meeting, they just know, okay, this is where I go. This is, and that just helps them feel like they know what to do. And so to help them kind of limit the feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't feel like I belong here. Sometimes clear signage can just be the biggest gift to help somebody feel like they belong. So to summarize all of that, and we'll open it up to Q&A, to summarize all of that, we've got these 5 ways, 5 ideas of many, many ways and many ideas to help reach more Christmas visitors. And with all of that, I want to open it up now to some time of Q&A. Thank you so much if you've kind of hung in for this length of time. I kind of talked at you for 20 minutes or so, but feel free. You can unmute your mic and use your voice, or you can drop questions or thoughts into the chat window. Will was
I
asking.
asked in the chat, you need the CVLI license still to use The Chosen, or are we good without it for your use of that video?
Yeah, I believe, I don't want to talk out of turn here. Number one, I'm not positive what CVLI is personally, so maybe you ought to educate me on that. Number two, I'm almost positive that what we provide you in the licensing is comprehensive. It's all that you need in order to show the Chosen at your church. I know it's
CVLI is the video version of CCLI, so you can use movie clips from popular movies, Disney, Warner Brothers, whatnot. You can also, as long as you have a CVL license, you can do a in-church movie night with any of the number of hundreds of movies there, to include like Guardians of the Galaxies and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Carrie, you just chimed in for a minute.
Yes. The Chosen streaming subscription through Outreach Films provide you licensing to show any of the Chosen episodes from the first 4 seasons, plus the Christmas Holy Night special. The Chosen Christmas Kit gives you clips that coordinate with the sermon that they provided, and you can show those without a license as well.
Thank you, Carrie. And such a great question, Will. Thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for asking. Craig says, we love our Outreach Digital social media. I love to hear that, Craig. We're so excited, all the churches we can help with social media. Julie, great question for the group. She just says, is anyone doing anything they're particularly excited about to promote their Christmas services? Innovative or just new to you? I would love that. Anybody chime in on that? What are you guys doing that you're excited about?
Well, this is Julie. I'm the one who asked the question. I am not a plant in the audience, but we are working with Outreach to do, we're doing a direct mailer for the first time. It's going to go to about 20,000 people, which seems absurd, but our goal is to double the number of people attending our church in the next 12 months. So Christmas obviously being like a big invite day for us.
Yeah.
We're excited to do this direct mail, and we're amping up marketing in other ways too, but we're also just going to community sites. We're going to host a free gift wrapping and kind of a shopping area parking lot for folks on December 23rd, just to, do something of service to people in our community. It's not paid, it's not promoted all that much, but just like, hey, you just finished your Christmas shopping, we're here to wrap your gifts for you. And we're also participating in a boat parade, which I don't really know what to say about that, but that's something we're doing. So that's my 2 cents.
I love that.
I'm sorry?
Julie, that's amazing. I just said I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah, I didn't see that question to brag about Outreach or what we're doing. I just those are some of kind of the weird things that we're up to, and I wasn't sure if anyone else had other crazy things that I don't want to tell my executive pastor, who I think is great.
Yeah. Where do you guys do the boat race?
Oh, sorry, it's a boat parade. So it's
boat parade. So, yeah.
We're in Chino, California, which is outside of LA, and there's a community boat parade already happening, and we're just signing up to participate in it. So it's actually boats being towed on the road. It's not like on the water or anything like that. But it makes people come out to see a bunch of decorated boats instead of having to do a bunch of tissue paper float decorations.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I know Chino. What church are you at in Chino, Julie?
Verve City Church.
Okay. I know the name. I'm up maybe 3 hours north of you in Central California.
Okay, great.
Well, my name is Sister Louise. I work for the Diocese of Buffalo, but I used to work in a parish. And at our parish, we had a very large craft show just prior to Christmas. So one of the things we did, our evangelization team, is that we created a flyer and told people where to find all the different tables in the building. But then on the opposite side of the flyer was an invitation to come to our Advent and Christmas services. So it was a way to try to get into the hands of hundreds of people who walk through the door.
That's so cool.
Super cool.
Julie, just a question on your 20,000 reach mailer. Did you just give Outreach the zip codes that are in your area where the church is? Did you go out a mile radius, 2 mile radius? How did you come up with the territory you were sending the mailers to?
That's a great question. So we work with Peter at Outreach, who is fantastic. And we initially asked him, told him that our goal was to get 2,000 people on our campus for Christmas, and asked him to kind of work backward from there, knowing if we have about 1,000 people on an average Sunday, and we'd like to double that for Christmas and then kind of keep building that pipeline. What did we need to do? He suggested a mailer for about 5,000 people, and we did give him kind of the geographic targets that we were looking for. So communities in our area that we already have a lot of folks coming from, and we're trying to grow to a second campus. So kind of seeding a community where we'd like to potentially have a second church campus. So that was what we started with. He came back with really great suggestions. And then my executive pastor went through, and knowing the area better than I do, she went through and added like, oh, well, we really need to do this neighborhood. And this mail route has a different set of like young families, and there's a lot of new housing in that area. And you know what, there's not a church over here, so we really need to target this area. So we were able to go through with the initial plan that Peter set out for us, and then add and not limit ourselves.
Oh, very good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was really easy to do. And again, I'm like not a plant. I don't actually work for Outreach, but they made it really, really simple. And I know if we had told Peter we wanted to reach 20,000 people, he would have come up with that for us. But the flexibility between what they all recommend as the experts and what they're able to do logistically versus letting us customize a plan based on kind of the mapping software and what's doable, super easy.
Man, Julie, we need to.
No, for churches that aren't as large, we get up probably about 100 to 130 people weekly, not 1,000. So
Absolutely.
how do you, Jake, pare that down for smaller congregations?
Yeah, such a good question, Ella. We need to give Julie a sponsorship partnership of some kind. This is you're the best, Julie. I love that. Yeah, and I wanted to, because it seems like even a question in the chat, when would be a good time to drop a launch a mailer from Adam? So maybe just a quick, pretend I'm on a call with any of you, so sort of starting the discovery process of a mailer. I would say a great question, Ella. I dropped down in the chat just rough pricing for mailers at different quantities with nonprofit rates. To do a mailer that goes to 5,000 people, it would cost $1,565, scaled all the way up to 100,000 people. And that's rare, but we have those happen sometimes. Someone wants to send it to a few 100,000 people. That's upward of $21,000 to do that. And so then you can kind of fill in the gaps in between. A lot of people will do 5,000 or 10,000. A lot of people will do 1,000, or they'll do 500 or 2,000. So that's kind of a way to think through just the ballpark of pricing. But then I would say this, Ella, and to everybody, when you start thinking through, okay, we want to do a mailer, there's two basic starting points, and then a few ways to refine each of those. So two of the most popular kinds of mailers are either called, number one, a saturation mailer, which goes to every residential address within a selected territory. And then number two would be called a targeted demographic mailer, which goes to a list that we get from a data company that basically fills, it fills the list with whatever criteria you want. Like you could say, hey, send this to families within 5 miles of our church who have kids in the home between the ages of 4 and 17. Or send this to, people who have lived in their homes for 6 months or less. And it'll go to rentals and owned homes, of course, just all residential, no businesses. So those are kind of the two starting points, is thinking, do I want to do a targeted demographic mailer? We call it a demo mailer. Or do I want to do a saturation mailer, which is kind of a, every door with no, discrimination between criteria. And then, like Julie was talking about, once you decide that, then you can kind of get into the map process. And this looks, there's a whole spectrum of how this can look. I've talked to handfuls of customers this week, and for some of them, they said, okay, here's the money we have to spend. We have $1,000. What can we do for $1,000? And I say, you can do this quantity. It's about this amount of mailers. And then I just say, do you want to send those mailers to a radius that saturates the area immediate around your church? And they say yes. And so we did that, and that was good to go. And then we did another one, another conversation I'm having. They're trying to send 10,000 mailers to an area that's not touching their church on the map, but it's a little bit more south. And so I sent them a draft of what it could look like. And then they sent back another screenshot with, an area crossed out, and they said, try to hit this area over here. And so then I went back and tried to hit that area over there. And so we kind of do some back and forth to ultimately get them the quantity that they want to pay for. So that's important. Get the quantity that you want to pay for. We don't want to ruin your budget. And then number two, we want it to hit the spots on the map that you want it to hit. So long story short, to all of that, Ella, hopefully that's helpful to somebody. But Ella, for you, if there's 100, 130 people coming to your church, that's kind of all for you and your teams to decide, how much would we want to invest in a mailer invite? Maybe it's $500, maybe it's $400, maybe it's $1,000. And then we can figure out how many mailers can that purchase. And then we can look at the map and say, where's the best place to send, 1,000 mailers or 2,000 mailers. So hopefully that kind of helps.
That did help, because we do more with the invite cards, because our congregation, a lot of our people that come to our congregation don't live actually in the neighborhood where God has planted the church. So we have, congregants that drive in. And so we get more traction with the invite cards, because then they could take them to the neighborhoods where they live, the grocery stores where they live, the softball games where they live, and invite people. And we do a lot with yard signs, having our congregants put yard signs in their yard around Back to Church Sunday and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we've done it with lower costs, but
Yeah.
still being impactful and effective as well.
Yeah, I love that. Invite cards are by far the best bang for your buck as far as, you know, cost and people getting a card. I mean, you get hundreds of these cards for $50. So that's always a great option. And then that really, I mean, that puts it on you and your people to equip them and to really send them, you know, with a tool in hand to go and connect with somebody face to face. That is awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite things about being at Outreach is just the spectrum, the diversity of churches that we work with, even at a budget level, like how just the different conversations you end up having sometimes with a church of 20,000 versus, you know, maybe a church of 40. Like I was talking with someone the other day and they're really revitalizing this church. And so we're talking about really making a dollar stretch on some of these outreach efforts. And it's a privilege to strategize that with you guys. I'll leave it open here for another, 30, 60 seconds or so, and then I'll kind of wrap it up in just a minute. So yeah, with that, I want to say thank you again to everybody. So glad you're here. Julie, thanks for the input. If you ever need a job at Outreach, just give us a call, okay? We'll connect. Thank you. Will do. Thank you, Carrie and Matthew and the Outreach team for being on the call today. Yeah, we are so grateful for all of you and everything you're doing week in and week out for your churches. And if there's any way we can ever help you, with or without, selling products to you, we are genuinely here to partner with you and spread the gospel through your churches. So thank you, and we'll stop recording here and say goodbye. Farewell.